今天要分享的改编故事是望梅止渴，希望能在学习英语的路上给你带来收获。你的每个点赞和订阅都是对我莫大的鼓励。那么，咱们开始吧。
The sun stood high and hard in the sky. Heat rolled across the dry land like fire on a stove. Dust rose under thousands of tired feet. Soldiers walked with slow steps, their armor hot against their skin. Water bags hung empty at their sides. Some men shook them again and again, hoping for even one last drop. Nothing came out. Lips cracked. Tongues felt thick like dry wood. The road ahead looked endless. At the front of the army rode a commander named Cao Cao. His eyes moved across the long line of men. He saw the way they walked. Shoulders bent. Heads low. Some soldiers had begun to whisper. Water, there must be water somewhere. But the land was dry. No river. No stream. Not even wet grass. A few men began to fall behind. One soldier dropped to his knees. Another sat on the ground and would not stand again. If this march went on much longer, the army would break apart before reaching the next town. Cao Cao understood the danger at once. An army does not fall only from swords and arrows. Sometimes it falls from thirst. He looked at the hills ahead. Brown dirt. Scattered trees. Still no sign of water. The wind carried only hot air. For a moment he said nothing. His horse stepped slowly forward. The soldiers behind him watched with dull eyes. Then Cao Cao suddenly turned in his saddle and shouted in a loud voice that ran down the road. Just over that hill there is a forest of plum trees. The branches are heavy with sour green plums. When we pass the hill, everyone can eat as many as they want. The words moved through the army like a spark through dry grass. Plums. Sour, juicy plums. Men who had walked with empty faces lifted their heads. Some soldiers began to talk. Did you hear that? A whole forest of plums. The thought alone changed something in their mouths. Sour fruit came to mind. Juice running across the tongue. Sharp taste that made the mouth fill with water. Saliva rose at once. Dry mouths grew wet again. Men swallowed. Throats felt easier. Steps grew stronger. No plum trees could be seen yet, but the idea of them pushed the army forward. Soldiers walked faster. Some even laughed. One man said, "When I reach those trees, I will eat until I cannot move." Another replied, "Save some for me." The line of soldiers climbed the hill with new strength. Armor still felt heavy. The sun still burned. But now their bodies held a small stream of moisture again. Cao Cao watched quietly. He knew there were no plum trees waiting behind that hill. What he needed was time. Beyond the next few hills lay a real river. If the army could reach it, they would live. If they stopped here, many would die before sunset. The hill passed under their feet. No forest appeared. Some soldiers looked around with surprise. Dry fields spread in every direction. A few men frowned. Where are the plums? Chow Chow raised his hand and pointed farther ahead. Not far now. The trees grow thick near the river valley. Keep moving. The word river caught every ear. The army marched again. Sweat ran down faces. Boots struck the road again and again. The promise of fruit and water pulled them forward like a rope. Soon the land began to slope downward. The air changed slightly. The smell of wet soil drifted in the wind. One soldier stopped and sniffed the air. "Water," he said in a hoarse voice. Then someone shouted, "I hear it." At first it sounded like soft wind through leaves. A moment later the sound grew clear. Flowing water. The army broke into a run. Men dropped helmets. Some threw down shields. They rushed through grass toward the shining line of the river. When the first soldiers reached the bank, they fell to their knees and drank with both hands. Cold water washed through dry throats. Laughter rose into the air. Some men splashed their faces again and again. Others lay on the ground and let the river run over their arms. Chow Chow rode down the slope and stopped near the edge of the water. His horse lowered its head and drank deeply. An officer walked up, still breathing hard. "There were no plum trees," he said. Chow Chow nodded slightly. But everyone reached the river. The officer thought about the long march, the dry road. The moment when men almost gave up. Just the thought of sour plums had filled their mouths with water and carried them forward. Years passed. The story traveled from village to village. Parents told it to children. Teachers spoke of it in small schools. Travelers repeated it beside night fires. People used a short phrase to remember the moment. Looking at plums to stop thirst. The words did not mean real plums anymore. They spoke about the strange power inside the human mind. A picture in the head can change the body. A small hope can move tired feet. Even now the same thing happens in quiet ways. A student sits late at night with heavy eyes and a hard book. The bed looks soft. Sleep pulls like a strong hand. Then the student thinks about the life waiting after years of study. That thought becomes the plum that keeps the light on. A worker walks through a long day that seems to have no end. Work piles up like a mountain. Then the thought of family, of a warm meal, of a better future rises in the mind. Steps grow steady again. The road of life often feels dry. Energy runs low. Goals seem far away. The river cannot yet be seen. At times like that, the mind needs its own plum tree. A clear picture of what lies ahead can place strength back into tired legs. That old march across the burning land left more than a story about clever words. It left a quiet reminder. The body may feel empty, but the mind can still lead the way forward.
下集请移步主页观看。